Hi everyone, it's Danielle with Northlawn Flower Farm. Today I want to share with you how to prune all different types of hydrangeas. And I know that pruning hydrangeas can be a little bit scary if you've never done it before, and maybe you're confused about whether or not to prune your hydrangea. I'm hoping just to shed a little bit of light on that today so that you can go out there and say, oh, that's the kind of hydrangea that I have, and decide whether or not you need to prune it or just deadhead it. So let's get started with talking about the hydrangeas that we can prune. There's two varieties. Your Panicle hydrangea, like the big beautiful limelight that we all know and love, things like Firelight, Quickfire Fab, any kind of Panicle hydrangea can be pruned because it blooms on new wood. The same goes for the smooth or native hydrangeas, something like an Annabelle hydrangea, or the hydrangea I'm going to be pruning right now is called Invincible Spirit too. It's also a smooth hydrangea. So both Panicle and smooth hydrangeas bloom on new wood, so that means we can go ahead and prune them here in very early spring. It's mid-March here in zone 6B. Now, there are three varieties that we don't really want to prune at all. We just want to deadhead them if they need it. That's going to be our bigleaf hydrangeas, you know, those big, beautiful blue hydrangeas that can be blue or pink depending on the acidity and the soil. Also, the mountain hydrangeas that have the same coloring, but they have more of a lace cap look to them. And then also the oakleaf hydrangea, which is really easy to ID by just looking at the leaf because it really does look very similar to an oak leaf. So those three varieties we don't want to really prune at all. We just want to deadhead. So I hope that really demystifies things for you, because the most important thing is really just thinking, which hydrangea do I have, and then pruning or deadheading accordingly. So now that we've discussed that, let's go ahead and prune both a Panicle and a smooth hydrangea. So really what I'm looking for here is to just take this shrub down by about a third. You could take it down by a fourth. This is a pretty old shrub. It's about 5 years old. So I'm going to take it down by about a third right now. So what I'm looking for is just looking for these new sets of buds. That's where new growth is going to come from. And I want to go down to ones that seem really strong and healthy and nice and big. And that's where I'm going to make my cut, right above those nodes. And I'll show you a close-up. All right. So that's all there is to it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do that on all my branches. Always pruning right above a node. And I like to keep in mind here the general shape of the shrub. But I tell you what, do not worry too much about this, my friends. You really can't mess it up. As long as you're pruning hydrangeas that should be pruned and deadheading hydrangeas that should just be deadheaded, you're good to go. These guys will always rebound. So let me go ahead and prune this down, and then I'll catch you in a few minutes. So now that I've got the bulk of my pruning done, I can look for a few other types of things that I might want to remove. Things like dead branches, any branches that might have disease, and any branches that are crossing and might be rubbing on each other, because when branches rub on each other, a lot of times disease can occur in that wound. So I just want to be mindful and remove any branches that look like that. I don't really see any dead or disease. I don't think I've ever had a disease on a hydrangea in 15 years. But I do see some crossing branches, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove them. And I'm always just going to remove the smaller branch and just always encourage the big, stronger branch. So here's an example. You see this branch here that's kind of small and spindly is rubbing on this nice, big, strong branch, also on this branch. So I don't really want to promote that branch at all. I just want to take it back all the way. Perfect. And now this branch and this branch, they don't have to worry about that other branch rubbing up against them and possibly causing disease to set in. All right, guys, well, I think she's all done. I took her down by about a third, and remember, this is a smooth hydrangea, also called native, also known as arborescens, all the same. Sometimes people even just refer to the whole group as Annabelle, just to make it extra confusing for everyone. But if you have a smooth, native, arborescent, Annabelle type hydrangea, you can prune it down by about a third in early spring because it blooms on new wood, right, Rocky? And if you have never seen Invincible Spirit 2 in her full glory, I need to put a picture on the screen for you because I'm not sure there is any more beautiful hydrangea. I got this one about 5 years ago, and I mean, it just puts the biggest smile on my face when it blooms. And then when it's done blooming, you can see the heads really hold true there on the plant. They go from kind of a pink to kind of this silvery pink and then to a green, and then they just hold on all winter long. So really a great plant to think about in the landscape. But let's head over now to a hydrangea I have in the driveway garden called Pinky Winky. I've only had it for about a year, so it's still very small. It's a panicle type hydrangea, so panicles we can prune also. Prune them down by about a third. So let's head over there now. All right, guys, so here we are with my Pinky Winky hydrangea. This is a panicle type hydrangea, so once again we can prune it down by a third, and we prune it just the same way as we just pruned that smooth hydrangea. This one is only about a year old, so you see it's not that big yet, but once again I'm going to cut just above a node, and this is going to go really quickly, especially when they're younger like this. This hydrangea actually gets quite large. I'll put the stats on the screen, but I think it gets at least 8 feet tall. I'll make sure to correct myself on the screen if I'm wrong about that. But it's a really, really beautiful type hydrangea and just ginormous blooms on it. So see how fast this is going? I'm almost done. And as I'm going, I'm kind of looking for crossing and weak stems as well. Here's the main crossing issue right here. I'll just take that guy all the way off. Well, we're all done. It wasn't that so simple. I think it only took about 30 seconds to prune this panicle hydrangea. Now, I do have some much larger limelight hydrangeas that might take me closer to 10 minutes to prune, but still a nice job to do, especially when the sun is finally shining again. So now let's go back and look at a bigleaf hydrangea, and we can talk about how we don't want to prune that type, we just want to deadhead them. All right, guys, well, now let's talk about the hydrangeas that we really don't want to prune at all. We just want to remove the spent bloom heads, or basically think of it as deadheading your hydrangea. And the reason why we don't want to prune these hydrangeas is because they bloom on old wood. So if I was to cut this back by a third, I would actually be cutting off all of my flowers for this coming season. So the hydrangeas that we just want to deadhead or just remove the spent blooms are the bigleaf varieties, the mountain hydrangeas, and also the oakleaf hydrangeas. So this is a bigleaf hydrangea. Sometimes you might hear it called mophead hydrangea, sometimes microphylla, all the same thing. So let me show you how easy this is. All you want to do is just remove just the head. Just like you're deadheading a flower. Just the head. And I actually cut off a lot of these blooms already to use in flower arrangements and to sell, so that's why it doesn't have many heads on it at all. But you see I'm snipping just the head. That's it. All right, so once all the bloom heads are removed, you're done. That's all there is to it. You don't want to cut deep into this plant at all. All you have to do is remove the spent bloom heads and you're good to go for this season. And this guy is going to put on those beautiful blue blooms that we all know and love. Well, guys, I sure hope it was helpful to prune some hydrangeas with me today. I think the most important thing is to just figure out what variety hydrangea you have. And if you're not certain, there are so many people out there that are willing to help, myself included. You know, people bring plant samples to the extension office all the time, and we have to analyze what that plant is. So whether you take a plant sample to your local master gardener extension office, maybe you take it down to a nursery, show a picture to a friend, you know, post it in a gardening group. Nowadays, there's so many people that could tell you what kind of hydrangea you are about to prune. And then you can decide, well, is it a panicle or smooth hydrangea? You can prune it down by a third. Or is it a mophead, mountain, or oakleaf hydrangea? You just want to remove the spent blooms there. Well, guys, I want to wish you just an absolutely wonderful day. The sun has finally shown itself, as you can probably see in this footage here in Pennsylvania, and I think it's here to stay. It's just going to be a wonderful year. Thank goodness for the garden, right? Well, until next time, happy gardening. Bye.